After returning to their hotel, the band celebrated their latest success with beer. David felt slightly under the weather, so he decided to return to his room without drinking. I don't think I'm going to have nightmares tonight. That has to be thanks to Susanna's pills. David went to bed, feeling grateful towards Susanna. After he closed his eyes, he could still hear the crowd cheering him on. He was looking forward to the next concert. Before long, David was drifting away. But right then, he felt a presence. Someone was there. Who's there? Wake up. There was an old man beside him. You are... David jumped out of the bed in horror and surprise. You must solve the secret of the crest I've given you. You promised me this as I was dying. You're the man from my dream. A dream? Don't be a fool. They killed me right before your eyes. Now I am forced to roam this world as a spirit, never leaving your side until you realize my wish. You're a ghost. At this rate, they'll come after you. If you solve the mystery of the crest, you should be able to meet the Devil King. Then your life will be spared, and I will move on to the next plane of existence. How am I supposed to solve this mystery? Had I figured that out, I wouldn't be asking you now. Sick burn. Now I can only appear before you every night and haunt you until my wish is realized. He's very forthcoming for a ghost. This is ridiculous. Why did you have to push this problem on me? The old man was no longer in his room. David opened the door and walked out into the hallway. David was intent on finding the old man, but as he approached the elevator, several men came out of it and began to approach him. It's them! David ran back into the hallway. He reached Susanna's room and started banging on her door. Susanna! Please, open up! David, what's wrong? Susanna opened the door. There's a bunch of weird people outside our rooms. Susanna looked in the direction David was pointing at. A few men were entering the elevator. It looks like they got off on the wrong floor. David, I think you're a bit too nervous. Susanna gave him a goodnight kiss and went back inside her room. You shouldn't date your co-workers, that's a bad idea. Hearing Susanna's voice was enough to calm him down. David returned to his room. He went to bed and tried falling asleep, still worried about that old man. The following day, the band was supposed to go sightseeing in Rome, but David was still worried about what that old man had told him. He decided to stay at the hotel after pretending to not feel well. While he was alone in his room, thinking about his problem, Susanna walked in. What's wrong, David? The guys already left. You should have seen them. They were wearing sunglasses and fake mustaches. I guess celebrities can't go have fun like normal people, huh? Hi, Susanna. Sorry I woke you up last night. You woke me up? I'm not sure I understand. I was dead tired after yesterday's performance. I'm pretty sure I slept until 9 a.m. without interruptions. But that's impossible. Don't you remember those people who got off on the wrong floor? Are you sure that wasn't another dream? Maybe the pills didn't work. David couldn't believe that what had happened the previous night was simply a dream. Which part was real? Which part was a dream? Did he actually meet the ghost of that old man? The more he thought about it, the crazier everything felt. David, calm down. You'll lose your mind if you don't relax. Come on, tell me what happened last night. David could no longer keep it all to himself, so he showed Susanna the cloth with the crest. He told her everything, starting from the old man. And then he accidentally repeated a line of narration, like a smart person. It's definitely a nice crest, but something that leaves your dreams and enters reality. That's scary to think of. As long as I have this in the real world, I'll have to grant that old man's wish, even if it happens only in my dream. Maybe you can learn something by finding out more about this crest. There has to be some kind of reference book about coats of arms at the library. I didn't think of that, but I don't know Italian at all. Can you come with me, Susanna? Of course. It'll be like a date. I'm looking forward to it. Keep your relationships with your co-workers professional. Trust me, it's best for your long-term job health that you do this. I was not intending to do a whole musical number there, but that's what happens sometimes when you talk over old video games, I guess. The two of them left the hotel from the back door, making sure not to be noticed. They hailed a cab and went to the library. One specific car was following their taxi, meaning they had failed spectacularly to not be noticed. Your hunch was spot on, Chief. I'll admit I was kind of worried when you told me we didn't have to keep watching the front door, but there you have it. When you're acting out of the ordinary, you don't want to be noticed. It's human nature. But she's with David today. Maybe they're just out on a date. Or maybe she's going to meet some other guy and he's just her alibi. A good detective never trusts appearances. Remember that middle-aged man she met? Turns out he's the president of a trading company. He comes from old money, his hobby is golf. An upper-class gentleman through and through. Nothing suspicious whatsoever. And that is why it was suspicious. Why would Mr. Moneybags meet Susanna in a cafe? That's the mystery we need to solve. Is it? Is it really, though? What do I know? I'm not a detective. I'm just a bird. When you put it that way. Yeah, that's kind of weird. Oh, looks like their taxi entered Via del Corso. They're probably going to Piazza Venezia. Maybe they're going to see some ancient Roman ruins in the Foro Romano. Maybe not. They took a right turn towards Piazza della Rotonda. Della? I have an easier time with Italian than French, but it's still not my native language, so I do apologize in advance for any mispronunciations. They stopped in front of the Pantheon Museum. Let's get off and tail them on foot. Wait, the taxi's moving again. They didn't get off. Back to the chase. The taxi stopped in front of a building a little further on. Okay, no mistake this time. They did get off. That's the Pantheon's library. Why? I get the museum, but why the library? Oh well, get ready for books, Vince. The two detectives follow David and Susanna into the library. It is suddenly hot in my room. Gotta take my hoodie off real quick. Inside the library, Susanna was talking to the clerk, with David interjecting as well from time to time. The clerk was speaking in English. After taking a look at the crest on the cloth David showed her, the clerk gave her answer. Coats of arms such as this have been traditional here in Italy since the Middle Ages. Even today, we often use newly designed coats of arms as company logos. Oh, I thought it was just for old noble families. Finding this crest is going to be harder than we thought, David. The clerk brought out a particularly thick book. This is our reference book on coats of arms. All the crests listed here have a name and a biography, so you can find out more in the reading room. Whew, this thing is heavy. Hope I can carry it by myself. David lifted the reference book and headed towards the reading room with Susanna. David and Susanna turned page after page, comparing the crest they held with those on the book. Clark and Vince walked past them and sat at a nearby table, holding a magazine. They each had it in one hand. It was very cute. I think they were looking up coats of arms? Looks like it. But that handkerchief belongs to David. Susanna's only here to help him. Maybe they're looking for some cool design for a prop or something. I don't think so. If that's the coat of arms of David's family, it's possible this whole European tour was just a means to travel around Europe and find more information about that crest's history. Was there really a point in tailing Susanna today? Why? You had anything better to do? Besides, she might leave him at some point and go off on her own. I'm just speculating, sheesh. Anyway, look, I don't think they found whatever they were looking for. She closed the book with a sigh. That was a lost cause, really. There's tens of thousands of different coats of arms in Europe, including England. This kind of search would be hard for an expert, let alone for amateurs. Would have been easier if it were a Japanese family crest, since there's relatively few of them. But European coats of arms? Yeah, good luck with those. They're leaving. Let's get moving. David and Susanna hailed another cab and left the library. Clark and Vince followed them in their own car. David and Susanna visited the Biblioteca Nazionale Centrale di Roma, but once again they were unable to find any conclusive evidence. They were told that a library in Piazza Navona offered a microfilm with unusual emblems, but it didn't contain the same crest they were looking for. David and Susanna decided to take a short break near the Trevi Fountain. I can't believe we couldn't find anything after searching this long. Oh well. Since it happened in my dreams, maybe I need to look it up in my dreams too. Can you give me a couple of coins? I want to make a wish in the Trevi Fountain. Susanna approached the Trevi Fountain, turned around, and tossed the coins backwards. So, what should we do now? I don't think visiting random libraries is going to work, he said after having already done that 3 times today. Well, since we're already out and about, we might as well go for a little stroll. Oh, hold on. I should call the hotel. Susanna left to look for a payphone. Clark followed after her, unnoticed by David. Susanna came back. The guys aren't back yet. Why don't we grab a bite somewhere? Gosh, I was so focused on the search that I forgot about eating. Do you know any good place, Susanna? David and Susanna walked around Rome like a pair of lovers, hailed by the two detectives. Tailed by them, even. Once they reached Via del Tritone, they hailed a cab. They took another cab. We left our car at the Trevi Fountain, though. Should we go get it? No, we'd lose them. Stop a cab! As luck would have it, there was a cab ready to go. They got in and followed the car with David and Susanna. Vince, tell him to follow that cab. Whew, we almost lost them. Man, cars in Rome sure drive fast. Makes for a fun ride, though. Susanna made 2 phone calls. She's probably going to meet someone else at some point. Their car took a left, towards Piazza di Spagna. My guess is they stopped looking for libraries and they're just going to have fun. First call must have been to the hotel. But what about the other one? Yep, they're getting off in Piazza di Spagna. Look at Susanna, she's skipping like a child, her skirt aflutter. A normal sentence for a human being to say. I feel so pathetic, tailing a couple. Get a grip, Vince, this is work. Let's get going. Clark and Vince got off the taxi and kept following David and Susanna. Hold on. I thought they were going to Piazza di Spagna, but they just entered Via Condori. If you want to be a good detective, you can't stop at first glances. My guess, they're going to grab a bite. Via Condori is a major tourist route. There's a bit of everything nearby, from jewelry to Gucci stores, as well as restaurants and pubs. Thank you, narration. Susanna stopped in front of a restaurant. Since we can eat Italian food at the hotel, why don't we try Japanese cuisine instead? This is hamase. I heard good things about it. Japanese cuisine, huh? I've only ever had things like tempura and sushi. I'd really like to try sukiyaki and ochazuke. Okay, let's go in. David and Susanna entered the restaurant. There were many Japanese customers inside the restaurant. Each individual table was enclosed in its own box, so Clark and Vince were able to sit next to David and Susanna and listen to their conversation without having to worry about being seen. David was talking to Susanna while they both ate from their sukiyaki saucepan. Oh my gosh, this is delicious! It's been so long since I last had sukiyaki. And the soy soup goes perfectly with the meat. What are these noodles? I thought they were tofu, but they're different. Crisper. They've absorbed the soup, so they're almost better than the meat. Am I reading an advertisement right now? That's a kind of diet food called cognac. You should eat the meat and build up your stamina. I'll eat the cognac and watch my calories. Looks directly at the camera in a deadpan expression. The two of them were very impressed by the quality of the onigiri and the sukiyaki, which they happily devoured. From the nearby table, Clark and Vince were keeping an eye on them. Chief, the sushi's good, but the sukiyaki looks divine. Oh man, that soup smells... Huh? Chief, the customer that just came in is walking towards Susanna. Who's this guy? A middle-aged man greeted Susanna. David, this is Mr. Demir from Demir Music. He's taking care of our performances in Italy. I'm Demir. Pleased to meet you. I came here to meet a colleague from a Japanese music... blah 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 blah. I am not redoing 28 minutes of recording. I'm gonna try that again.
I'm Demir. Pleased to meet you. I came here to meet a colleague from a Japanese music firm, and I happened to notice the two of you. It's nice to finally meet you in person, Mr. David.
Please, take a seat with us, Mr. Demir.
Rome must be smaller than I thought. I never would have guessed I'd find you here. Are you visiting Piazza di Spagna?
Yes, though our main reason for being here was to find out more about a certain Crest.
Susanna? I don't see how that's any of his business. The Crest, you say? Collecting photos and drawings of coats of arms is actually a hobby of mine. What kind of crest would that be?
David unfolded the cloth, revealing the crest. This is it. We've been hitting all the libraries we could find, but we couldn't find this specific crest in any reference book.
I have to admit, this is the first time I've seen such a magnificent crest. Where did you find it? Would you mind parting with it?
I'd like to find out to which family it belongs first. Once I do, I'll gladly let you have it.
You know, a long time ago, the British used to consult a fortune teller when looking for someone or something in Rome. The fortune tellers here are particularly accurate, you see.
A fortune teller, huh?
Oops. If you're considering it, I can introduce you to a good place I know.
Talking to a fortune teller seems interesting. How about it, David? It might be fun.
It's in the alley next to the nightclub Paradise. There should be a sign that says Noozle. It's pretty well known in the area, so if you ask people around, they should be able to point you in the right direction.
Thank you, Mr. Demir. We'll go there as soon as we finish eating.
Once you find out what you need, please contact me. I'd really like to have this crest.
David and Susanna left the restaurant, tailed by Clark and Vince. Seriously, a fortune teller? You'd think they'd try asking a detective first.
Looks directly at the camera. At a glance, there's nothing suspicious about this Demir guy, but think about it. He just happened to come to that restaurant. He just happened to know a lot about crests. That's way too convenient. Problem is, we can't follow them inside the fortune teller's shop, can we?
They probably do strip shows at nightclubs in Rome. Maybe we should take a seat inside, grab something to bite and enjoy the show. It's part of the Italian experience. No comment.
The neon sign reads Paradise. They're going into that alley. Now cut the crap and keep your eyes open.
David and Susanna entered the alley, looking for Noozle's shop. It sure is dark in this alley. It's the perfect place for a mugging. Don't say shit like that. God. This should be the place, but I don't see any signs that say Noozle. Real fortune teller shops wouldn't have a big sign. They get their customers mostly through word of mouth. It is said having too many customers lowers the energies. You know, the energies. They don't do that if they don't think they need it, though. I wonder how many people come here looking for it but give up because they can't find it. It'll be fine. Fortune tellers have powers, you know? They know when someone is looking for them, and they'll put out a sign of some kind to help them find the place. They don't do that if they don't think they need it, though.
Oop. You're pretty knowledgeable about this.
There it is. It says Noozle on the wall. Let's go inside, David.
David looked at the letters on the wall.
The inscription was the size of a business card. Impressed by Susanna's eyesight, he followed her through the door she opened. The fortune teller's house was wrapped in black curtains. It was so dimly lit that David and Susanna were forced to walk carefully so as not to stumble. The voice of a man came from the back. "Open the curtains." David did as told and peered inside. The room beyond was also shrouded in black curtains. A single lit candle on the table provided a small source of light. There were no signs of the owner of the voice. "Approach the table." David and Susanna approached the table as told. "Well met. I am Michael, the fortune teller." The candle flickered at Michael's words. It was as if the voice came from the candle itself. "It seems you've been looking for someone." How did he know? We didn't say anything yet.
"I am no mere fortune teller. I am a real sorcerer, wielder of dark magics. You can tell it's legit because it's spelled CK.
At the mention of dark magics, David wondered if he wasn't in another one of his dreams. David, what should we do? I'm scared.
There is nothing to be afraid of. Simply tell me the age and the name of the person you are looking for. If you've brought any of their belongings, leave them on the table."
David spread the cloth with the crest on the table and spoke up. "I want to find the owner of the coat of arms embroidered on this handkerchief. Unfortunately, I don't know anything about this person."
"Just from this piece of cloth?
I guess it's impossible just from the crest."
Silence, woman. I could easily find out with my dark arts, but I would extinguish yet another one of the lights of my life if I were to do so.
If it's a matter of money, we have it. How much?
Do you think I'd exchange my very life for money? I have more money than I'd ever need. I won't use my magic for someone who ignores the value of life. Leave.
The flame of the candle swayed violently. Mr. Michael, if you truly are a sorcerer as you claim, would you refuse to help us after seeing us in person? The black curtains moved. Michael was apparently looking at Susanna and David. Michael let out a gasp.
My apologies. I shall proceed to use my dark magics.
David was going to ask Susanna about the sudden change in Michael's attitude, but he was interrupted before he could.
I will attempt to follow the residual thoughts on this cloth, but I cannot do this by myself. I must borrow your energy waves.
Our energy waves? I don't get it, but if it helps us solve the mystery of this crest, go ahead.
Thank you. I shall now follow the residual thoughts and send you what I perceive. Abandon all trivial thoughts and open your mind. Let us begin.
Once he could no longer hear Michael's voice, David felt some kind of weight in his mind. He thought to himself that he was receiving Michael's thoughts. David tried to focus on this weight, but nothing seemed to happen. Then, he started feeling drained for some reason. Then he heard Michael's voice, or rather, his voice resonated within his head.
The ancestors of the owner of this cloth betrayed the Devil King. They'll be rewarded with eternal happiness in the kingdom of God, but they've hidden their history and coat of arms, fearing the dark retribution. I've identified the residual thoughts. I should be able to track them to their source. David was now convinced that he was in one of his dreams, but unlike the other times, he now wanted to see where it would lead. Do you see it? This is the building I see in my mind. Do you see it? This magnificent building is the source of the coat of arms. I shall now confirm its location on GPS. David observed the building pictured in his mind. It was some kind of castle. The image faded from his mind. David could now hear Michael's voice through his ears. This is all I can do. I hope it proves useful.
Could you draw us a map? We have to go there.
The black curtain swayed, and a slip of paper came out of the gap. Susanna took it and handed over a large sum of money in return.
We're done here. Let's go, David.
As he grabbed Susanna's hand, David chuckled bitterly to himself, thinking it felt very realistic for a dream. After leaving the darkness of Michael's residence, David was blinded by the sudden sunlight. After a few seconds, he became used to the light. He was now convinced that his meeting with Michael was not a dream.
Should we follow Michael's map?
Of course. But first, there's something I'd like to ask you. Michael changed his attitude at your words. Could you tell me why?
It's because you're very popular here in Rome. Your presence here should be all over the newspapers. I don't think there's anyone who doesn't know who you are, David. Somehow we failed to recognize you, but once I told him who you were, he figured he could brag to have had David, the famous singer of Vision, among his clients.
David wasn't fully satisfied with this explanation, but he kept the conversation going. Is that so? What about when he used his magic? It was like one of my dreams. Didn't you feel tired? It was as if he was draining my energy.
I'm okay, but you do look a little pale. Maybe we should go back to the hotel.
We've come this far. I really want to know who the owner of this Crest is. Look, there's a taxi over there. Let's go. David and Susanna entered the taxi. Clark and Vince saw them leave and hurried to find a taxi of their own. Just as David's taxi was leaving their sight, they were able to find their ride.
Hello, good sir. See that taxi? Could you please follow it?
Lucky for them, there were no other taxis on the road. The rest were private cars. Damn it, another car got in between. Tell them to step on the gas already. Sheesh, don't they know how to drive in Rome?
We're getting away from the hotel. Where do you think they're headed?
The taxi's headed for the River Tiber. They may be headed for the San Pietro's Basilica in the Vatican City.
The Vatican is the smallest country in the world. Some call it the land of God, some the kingdom of the Holy Spirit.
The other is the headquarters of the Catholic Church. There are rumors that the Pope has enough authority to run the world. You sure know a lot of stuff, Vince. The Vatican is just 0.44 square kilometers, and yet it has over 100 embassies all over the world. It's one of the richest countries out there.
We just crossed Ponte Sant'Angelo. You're right, Chief. We're going to the San Pietro's Basilica.
Weird. They just crossed Piazza San Pietro. If they were going to the Basilica, this is where they'd get off.
They drove past the Vatican museums. They just keep going, huh?
Leonardo da Vinci spent quite some time around these parts, ostensibly.
They turned again. I have no idea where they're going.
Well, they finally stopped. They got off, but the taxi's just parked there. Maybe they told them to wait? Let's stay here and see what they do.
David and Susanna got off the taxi and looked around them. Look, David. This is it. Yes, no doubt about it. This is the castle we saw. Michael's magic was for real. Let's see if we can notice the crest anywhere. Michael said their family passed down the coat of arms in secret, but I can't imagine they'd build such a grandiose building without sticking the crest somewhere. David and Susanna walked around the building, examining it accurately. Is that the advert they should be using there? There it is, engraved on the gatepost. It's the same size as the one on the handkerchief. You're right. It has no colors, but it's definitely the same design. It's so small that you wouldn't normally notice it if you weren't looking for it. I'm glad we finally found the crest. Michael also mentioned the Devil King. I'm sure the old man from your dream is pleased. Looks like the nameplate reads Damiel Horkai. David felt like he heard the name somewhere before, but he couldn't remember where exactly. This is the end of my search. Thank you, Susanna. If it weren't for you, that old man would have haunted my dreams again tonight. Now we can go back to the hotel without worry. David and Susanna entered the taxi again. Well, they got on the taxi again. What do we do?
I'm getting off to check whatever the hell they were looking at. You keep following them. We'll regroup at the hotel.
Clark got off the taxi, while Vince followed David and Susanna. Clark approached the gatepost David and Susanna were inspecting.
Well, this is the same crest drawn on that handkerchief. Did the fortune teller tell them to come here or something?
As soon as he returned to the hotel, David went to sleep without even taking his clothes off. He felt as if Michael, the fortune teller, had absorbed all of his energy. He was feeling better by the time Alan called him on the phone later on. When David came down to the lobby, the rest of the band was waiting for him, including Susanna.
Hey there, my man. How are you feeling? You're looking good.
We were just talking about changing the order of the songs for the concert tomorrow. Your songs are just too powerful, David. We're thinking about how to keep all the energy down so the audience won't go crazy again. Other bands probably think we're full of it, but we have to do something before people actually get hurt. So what do you think, David? Susanna managed to save our last concert, but yeah, I agree. We should change the song order.
That settles the matter. Now let's go eat. I found a good place. It's nice and quiet. We booked it for the entire evening so we can eat and drink without being bothered. David, don't you dare leave us halfway through this time.
The band left from the back of the hotel in 2 separate taxis. Clark and Vince tailed them in their own car. They drove downtown and stopped under a neon sign reading Canzona. As they walked through the door, the other customers stood up and clapped for them.
When I told the neighbors that Eleno Vision made a reservation, they all decided to come here to see you, Mr. David. I'm going to turn off the sign or we're going to be flooded.
Why on earth did I immediately give this man a southern accent?
I don't know, but that's what I'm sticking with. We're never seeing this dude again.
Who cares? While there were some young people, most of the customers were elderly. Rather than a party with their fans, it felt more akin to a family meal. Weird stuff happens when you record videos late at night, I guess.
Oh man, I don't think it's going to be very quiet. Maybe I shouldn't have mentioned we were Eleno Vision.
It's fine. We haven't had this kind of atmosphere since we left London. I don't mind this, once in a while.
Please, take a seat. This is going to be a fun night. Hope you're ready to drink till the sun comes up.
Once they were all seated, they started with a toast. Then they started bringing in an endless stream of food, from raw oysters to grilled lamb. There was a small stage inside the restaurant. One of the old men from the neighborhood was there, singing an Italian song. They were all listening, enjoying the performance. Outside the restaurant were Clark and Vince, waiting inside their car.
Nobody's gonna believe they're closed with all the noise they're making in there.
Well, we gotta be on the lookout while Susanna's in there. Still, I can't believe how popular David is all the way here in Rome.
I've been thinking. After all that trouble to find the house with the crest, why would David just leave? I would have gone inside.
Don't ask me. I'm gonna keep an eye here. Why don't you go buy us some hot dogs? From the looks of it, it's gonna be one long night.
It was midnight. Nobody seemed ready to leave the party yet. David, drunk with wine, was almost in a daze, resting his chin on his hands. How do you feel, David? You can barely keep your eyes open by the looks of it. I'm okay. Screen's just a little yellow is all. Italians sure know how to party, huh? It's not just Italians, look. Andrew's trying to sing in Italian too. I think I might be a little drunk. I'm going outside to get some night air. Don't worry, I'll be right back. David stepped outside and went on a short walk, taking in the fresh air, trying to sober up. Unlike the shopping districts, there were barely any cars around after midnight, so David thought it was a good time for a walk. As he walked, David thought there was something off about his surroundings. I've never been here, but these streets are familiar. David felt like he was moving through muscle memory alone, as if he had always walked these streets. There should be an alley around the corner. David turned down the road, and he stopped, dumbfounded. That's the residence of Damiel Horkai, the owner of the Crest. How did I get to the Ottaviano district?
He approached the gate. And then he heard a scream coming from inside.
Murder! Sir Horkai was murdered!
He saw a silhouette through the closed gates. The shadow ran in front of him before disappearing in the darkness. What happened? For a moment, I think I recognized that face. Who was it? The gates of Horkai's residence opened, and a group of men wielding sticks came out, surrounding him. It's him! He murdered Sir Horkai! Kill him!
No! You got the wrong man! The killer went that way!
Do you take me for an idiot? I've seen the face of the killer, and it was you! Kill him! David tried to run away, but he was soon surrounded. There was no room for escape. Avenge the master! The axe swung in front of his face. He heard the sound of a bottle shattering.
David, what happened? Oh, you're soaked with wine.
David ran his fingers through his shirt, damp with wine. He then realized he had another one of his nightmares.
Sorry, my hand slipped. I must be more drunk than I thought. You better not have another glass, or you'll be a mess during tomorrow's concert.
The sound of David's bottle crashing on the floor brought the party to an end.